Google Antigravity just changed coding forever, and you can use it for free. Google just dropped Antigravity, and it's insane. It's a free AI coding tool where agents build entire apps for you across editor, terminal, and browser. You give it one task, like build a flight tracker, and it plans, codes, and tests everything whilst you watch. And it works with Gemini 3, Claude Sonnet, and GPT models. Now today I'm going to show you exactly how it works, how to use it, etc. You can see this is a website, so you can actually download it for free at antigravity.google, and then you can get this for example, I downloaded it for Mac OS, and you can see here this is an agentic development platform evolving ID into the agentic era. So we're going to be testing out today, and I'll be walking you through the notes as well. So if you want to get all the video notes from today, plus the video tutorial, plus how you can use it for building websites and a 30-day plan, etc. That's all inside the AI Profit Boardroom. If you have any questions as we go along as well, feel free to ask, and we'll just get straight into this. So here is Google Antigravity. As you can see, you can switch between models here. Kind of reminds me of like Visual Studio Code. A lot of people call it like a cursor replacement as well. The difference, of course, is that you're using Gemini 3, and number two, this is free to use up to certain credit limits. Some people are saying there's no limits at all. I believe there are some limits. You can't just code off it forever. And I'm going to show you exactly how to use it. If you have any prompts you want me to test out as well, if you're watching this live, feel free to ask too, and we'll just get straight into this. So if we go inside here, we're going to open up a folder. So I'm just going to start a new folder here, and let's set up a new folder, and we'll just call this test project like so. We're going to create that, hit that, open that up, and then I'm going to allow this, allow that, trust the authors. A lot of pop-ups coming up. And then once you've done that, you're going to see something that looks like this, right? Now, we've opened up the folder. This is for our test project. And then from here, which between planning and which mode we want to use, right? So you can use, for example, planning, or you can use like the agent responsive mode. So if you're just coming up with ideas for the project, you sort of want to jam it out, then you can select planning over here, and then you can start thinking about what you want to build. Right, so let's say, for example, I want to create a AI SEO content creator. I'm going to type that in here for blog posts that's sleek, modern, and interesting. We'll hit enter like so. We're going to use Gemini 3 High for this, and now you can see it's thinking, right? So it's coming up with this checklist for the whole project. It's like, right, here's the project setup. We're going to initialize via React project, install the dependencies. By the way, this is coding locally as well. You can also comment on the artifacts as well. So you can actually comment on different parts here, and then speak with the AI agent that's coding out for you. And even if you don't have any coding experience, this is quite a simple and easy process, right, to basically seal. Now we've got the core UI implementation, logic and functionality, verification and polish. So basically what this has done is like planned out the whole process for us. And then it's beginning to sort of think about how it's going to create this project before we initialize it, right? Now what we can do is we can switch to fast mode on Gemini Pro High, right? And we can say, okay, code this out, right? And what it would start doing is using this to build out the project, right? So it's going to start building out and coding out the project using the plan that we've built out over here, right? And so if you have an idea for a SaaS tool that you want to create, then it's quite easy to start planning and building it out here. And then you've got the implementation plan as well, right? So inside this bit, this is really interesting too. So it's created a task checklist for coding out the project. And then we have the implementation plan, which basically shows us exactly what we're going to do during this project, right? So for example, goal description. It's like create a sleek, modern, and interesting AI SEO content creator web application. The interesting thing about this as well is like when you're coding this stuff out, right, you can see that basically you just give it very minimal prompting and it understands what you're doing and what you're trying to create. Right? So literally all we said was like create an AI SEO content creator, and then it's planned out and built the whole project scope based on all of this. So it's pretty simple and easy to use. And you know, even if you're not a coder, even if you're not great at doing this stuff, etc., it doesn't matter. You don't need to be, right? You can easily start using this, and you don't need to worry about any of this stuff, right? So we're going to wait for that to load, and that's beginning to code out the project. Then we're going to accept the command inputs on the right hand side here. I think we can actually set the settings so that it automatically implements all this stuff. Right, so we can click on turbo, for example, review policy. I can change to always proceed. Then we've got some advanced settings here. I'm just going to go with that, and that should just auto run without me now, which is pretty nice too. Now, whilst waiting for that to code out too, what we can do is click on extensions, and you can see all these different extensions that you can actually add into your project. So for example, you've got like Client, Composer, Debugger, Extension Pack for Java, you've got Go, all these different options for extensions. Then you've got the Remote Explorer, Run and Debug, the source control, and then the actual project, right? And you can see here it's beginning to build out all the individual files for the project as well. So these are going to be stored locally, which is great as well, because a lot of people prefer to create stuff locally and build stuff out. And then if you want to see the progress of the campaign and what's been coded so far, you can see this on the right hand side. So it's like, right, I am initializing the Vite project. I've handled the interactive prompt, and we'll now install the necessary dependencies, so Tailwind, CSS, Frame, Emotion, Lucide, etc. Right now, it depends what you're building out here. If you want to create something a bit more complex, like a tool, that's going to take a bit more time to build out. If you're just doing something basic, like for example, maybe it's a website. A website will be very easy and quick to build with this sort of tool. So the speed depends on the complexity of the project, and also it depends what you use. I would say in terms of model selection, Gemini 3 Pro is going to be your best option. Claude 4.5 Sonnet is pretty good too. GPT OSS I would never really use, honestly, but I think that's designed for local coding, so it's kind of like a SWE engineer. It's pretty simple and easy. So now it's configuring Tailwind and CSS, installing UI libraries, and now it's beginning to design the different features inside here too, right? So you can see is creating the hero TSX, header, layout, etc. Basically just doing the design functionality as well. Now it can do front end and back end as well, which is pretty useful, but it's beginning to code that out nicely. The other thing I was wondering as well was like, maybe you can actually code 2 different projects at the same time. So we can test out in a sec. I think Antigravity is looking really cool. I think there's a lot of amazing stuff you can do with it. And bear in mind, like, we're using it for free as well. So like you don't even have to pay for the APIs up to a certain limit. So it's implementing the copy functionality and verifying it now. And then what we can do is just open up a new folder here. And I'm going to pull up a previous folder that I actually created and coded with IDE over here. So if we click on trust the authors, yes, I trust them. We've got a website example here. Let's open this up. And now we're opening up this website we've coded previously too. Now you can see sometimes you're going to reach a quota limit, but then it's going to keep going and just keep moving, right? So if you reach a quota limit, you can actually switch between models. So we could switch to Claude Sonnet 4.5, and it's launching the browser now as well. And what this can actually do is use a agentic browser to test things out, right? So if we go over here, we can just install this extension for the browser. We'll add that to Chrome. And this is Google's Antigravity browser extension, which allows you to test what you build inside the agentic browser, right? So you can see now we've got this example of the page that we've created, right? So what this allows you to do is you can code projects locally, then open them up directly inside your browser agentically using Antigravity, and you just type in what you want, right? And you can preview it, you can test it out, etc. Right? And you can have 2 different projects running at the same time. Now, if you hit a quota limit, like I was saying before, like you can see here, then we just select another model, so we can switch over to Gemini 3.5 over here, click continue. And again, you can just keep switching. If you want to bypass all limits, there is a paid plan, I believe, but I've not seen, actually it's not available yet. You can see here, so it is only free. You can only use the free plan, right? It says individual plan, $0 per month, team plan, notify when available, and enterprise plan is coming soon. But right now, there is no paid plan. So it is 100% free before start posting. We've got some comments about whether I am the avatar version of me or the real version. This is the human version of me you're watching right now. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Happy to help. Good to see you here. And now it's beginning to work through that checklist that we built earlier. So this project right here is the SEO SaaS tool that we've built. Now we've got the previewing version of the website that we built that I actually opened up earlier. And there's a few things you can do, around this as well. This is interesting too. So, what you could actually do is, yes, you can preview this agentically inside your browser using the new Antigravity version that you've got. And if you see any bugs or things you don't like, for example, like that button doesn't make any sense, you can just go back over here, open that up inside your IDE, and then just say, okay, view services button is in the right color, change it to blue, for example, right? And just make it stand out. And then you can actually use the preview to identify the elements that you want to change on the page. Again, you may hit some quota limits. You just switch between them, especially if you're coding two things at the same time. But yeah, probably not a good idea actually, coding at the same time if you've got so many limits. But I just want to keep it entertaining for you and like switch between projects. Right, so we've switched now to GPT ISS because of the limits on Gemini. And now that's beginning to code out, as you can see. The interesting thing here is there's not really like limits as in like you can use it for free and then you have to pay, but it's more like there's limits where you have to wait like a few seconds or a minute before you can keep coding with the same model. So we're going to make those changes on the button for the page that we've just created. And it says, so the page will reflect the new color instantly. All right, let's see if that actually works. It's actually going to feel like that. It's not going to be that easy. Let's try and preview this. Yeah, I can't see that working. Let's say relaunch it in the browser now. So that's open it up in the browser. It says open in URL here. And let's say the button's in blue though. I think it's good for you to see some of these errors. So for example, we asked it to change the button to blue. It told us the button is blue now, but you can clearly see it's not. So we're going to just keep changing that now. It's not really changed that, mate. So there's definitely some bugs there. You can see that it's not changed the button to blue, even though we've requested that. Actually, what it's done here, this is kind of a bug inside it. So we asked to change the view services button to blue. What it's actually done is change the button on the menu to blue for services, as you can see. So there's still some bugs in there that are not particularly smart, and that might depend on the model as well. So we're using GPT OSS just because of the coding limitations. But you can see it's working over here. All right, let's see what questions we got. And then Olaf says, I have a rough idea for a project, but I don't know yet which platform to use, which database, which author provider to host it. Can anyone help me with decision making? But that's the sort of stuff you want to check out inside the AI profit boarding. So if you go to the AI profit boarding over here, this is an awesome community where you can ask those sort of questions on the live stream, inside the coaching calls, and then also inside the community here. So you can find out, okay, what are people using for building similar projects to what you're building, right? And the cool thing about that is like you get to basically delegate your decision making to 1,700 people who are really interested in AI just like you are. So it's one of the best places to learn and grow. And really like discover more about this stuff and see what's working right now. We actually have video notes as well from today, so you can see we've got like a step-by-step process of what works, how it works, etc., a 30-day plan, etc., for using Antigravity and everything you need to know about it. A booking system, yeah. So I would check out the AI profit boardroom and try and get some help there. That's like the best place to learn. Okay, what's working right now when it comes to building stuff. But I think if I was to pick one platform, you got to be careful if if you're vibe coding, you're building a backend, right, with a database. You got to be really careful with security. So I would look into, for example, like data button, and also when you're coding out, just ask the AI what are the best solutions for security, because that's going to be your biggest issue there, especially if people are logging in and that sort of thing. Like you need to protect your users and be careful of that. So let's come back to Antigravity over here. I'm going to close this website just so that we don't rinse the limits. And it says, I've completed the construction of your AI SEO content creator. The application is asleep, blah, blah, blah. And then we should be able to run it and check it over here. All right. Now, from what I can see, I'm going to say just test running that in the browser and just see if we can actually get that to work or not. And then I'm going to say, right, okay, we've got some issues. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this, go back to the IDE, paste that screenshot in. So you can see we've got the pasted screenshot over here. And say fix that. And it says, my apologies, I was using the incorrect tool name, blah, blah, blah. So let's see what it comes back with in a second. And let's see if we can get this working. I actually find, I've tested things like Claude Code as well. Honestly, I think like this style of coding is easier for me. I just hate using terminal. So, you've got other options like Claude Code. You could also use Visual Studio Code as well. I think the benefit of using Visual Studio Code versus using something like Antigravity from Google is that you can use different APIs and you won't have any limits there, right? Because you're using, for example, like OpenRouter to code out with that. But the problem is that a lot of those APIs are paid. And so it depends. You want this for free or do you want to do it fast? Because if you want to do it fast, then you can use paid APIs to help you build stuff out quickly. Otherwise, you may keep hitting limits as you switch between these different models. So we're going to accept those. Let's see if we can get this to work. So it's checking command status, doing the CSS config, waiting for the command completion. I still know a lot of people using Windsurf, to be fair. Like it's pretty popular. And then Olaf says at the moment I'm using OpenCode over Claude over Gemini CLI as well. Yeah, that's the other option that you can have, is you can use Gemini CLI as well. You don't have to use Antigravity. So let's go back to Antigravity now, and that is still not working. Right, I'm going to try and switch to Gemini 3 Pro. Then I'm going to open this up. Take a screenshot, go back. Let's say fix this. I'd quite like to see what other people are building with this as well. So let's have a look on X and we'll see what people are creating. So see what people are vibe coding out right now. A lot of people are saying they're going to remove cursor. Let's have a look at some of these examples. Oh, boom shakalaka. Look at that bad boy. Now we're talking. So this is the new version of the tool that we just created, right? And that looks pretty sweet. To be fair, I mean, I don't even use the word sweet in my language, but that is a really nice, clean UI right there. So we've developed a SaaS tool, as you can see, pretty simple and easy. I don't know if it's actually going to be powered by GPT-4 Turbo. That seems like nonsense. But you can see here that it's coded the logo, the tool. It's looking super nice, and he's created the content for the page, the headline, the subheadline, the button, etc. Right? I have a feeling this is not connected to an API, so I have a feeling like this is not going to work when it comes to actually generating the content. But let's see. Right? So I'll put SEO training over here. Then we'll put target keywords, AI SEO, tone professional. We can flick between all these different tones, and then we'll go for like short length. Right? I'm gonna hit generate content. Now, I actually created. How is it creating that? What API are you using? That's crazy. Obviously, this is just a mock-up, so you can install an SDK, create a .env, and then replace it, or I can just give it like an actual API key, right? So I think that's just using a mock-up. If we go back to this tool, but it's tailored all the content to my keyword with the title, and then you've got the SEO score, word count, readability, keyword density. I think that's just a mock idea, so I don't think that's like actually created on the spot. You'd have to connect your own API, but you can see how easy it is to create your own SaaS tools now using this process, right? And because nobody has to log in, obviously you don't have to worry so much about security. If you were setting up a login where it's like a database and it's got people's users details or even like their payment details, then you need to be very, very careful. You can also click on like view demo here, start creating for free, and then yeah, you've got SEO content all ready to go. Pretty cool, pretty impressive. So look, the features of pricing about don't work. So this is a very, very early stage mock-up. But you could say down inside Antigravity, okay, create the rest of the pages, or for example, connect my API with the SDK, blah, blah, blah. That is looking nice, right? That is looking really nice. And then if you wanted to host this, what you can do is you can take the coded files. So you would take the folder here, and then you would upload that to something like Netlify. So you can take the folder files, upload it to Netlify, and then host it on Netlify, because this is just running locally on our local host right now. But you can see how easy it is to create a tool, code it, design it, come up with an idea and tell it exactly what you want. And you don't need to be able to code to do this, right? And we did it all for free because we're using Antigravity, which is free and doesn't even have a pay plan right now. Pretty crazy. So let's have a look what we got. What else would you like me to code for you? I'm going to come up with some other ideas in a second. Otherwise, we can have a look at what other people are creating as well. And then from there, we can start seeing if we can create something similar. So for example, what we got here, a clone of iOS with every single app is usable. That's pretty crazy. This is from Minjoy, by the way, this thread. That's interesting. Can you actually use let's have a look here. So Nana Banana Pro inside Antigravity. So Nana Banana Pro is rolling out now to Google Antigravity. How do you use it inside Antigravity? Let's see if we can actually create images inside Antigravity. So if we go back here, let's say, okay, create a logo in the chat app, because I can't see it inside here. We've got Gemini Pro, Low, Sonnet, etc. Let's say use Nano Banana Pro and create a logo for my tool. See if it can actually do that. Yeah, it doesn't recognize it at all. Wait. It is generating an image here. Is that using Nano Banana Pro? I don't think I've got Nano Banana Pro inside here, but I know how I can use it. So I can either go to Gemini and I could say, right, okay, inside here, we can switch to create images with Nano Banana. And then as long as you've selected thinking with 3 Pro, that will use Nano Banana Pro, right? Whereas if you use Fast, that's just going to use the old version of Nano Banana. So if we switch to thinking with 3 Pro now, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a, I just saw what Antigravity created. It was funny. I'm going to come back to that in a sec. So if we go back to Nano Banana Pro here, plug that in, and then over here, we're going to say, okay, design a more beautiful website. This that looks more interesting, right? And we should get a better UI. The other option you have for this is you can go to Stitch with Google. I actually got some training yesterday from inside the AI Profit Boardroom. So if you want like a full video tutorial and all my best trainings and resources, you can go inside there, right? But if we go back to Stitch here, we can do the same thing and we'll probably get better outputs because that's what it's designed for, right? It's designed to, you can plug in like a URL or you can upload images and then you can describe what you want, right? So we can, for example, take this, go back to Stitch, select try redesign for Nano Banana Pro. So we select redesign here, and then we're going to hit enter like so. And then you can also switch between web and app design. So if we go back here, we go to web design. So we plug that in, select Nano Banana Pro, type in our prompt, and then upload the screenshot of whatever we want to insert. So let's grab that screenshot, copy that in, paste that image in here, hit enter on the blue sign, and then that will start redesigning our web design using Stitch with Google and Nano Banana Pro. Now, once that's done, we can either decide to change it more or we can insert it into Antigravity to start creating a better page, right? So you can see this is the old version, and I think it's designing the new version over here. Now, if we go back to Google Gemini, we can do this inside the chat as well. So we've got the old version. This is the old version from Antigravity that Antigravity designed. But if we go to the new version, we've got like a much cooler sort of interesting UI here. So if we copy that image now, then we go back to Antigravity, paste that in and say, change the design to match this style instead on the app you've coded. Look, I don't know why, but for some reason when we said can you use Nano Banana Pro, it just created a logo for Nano Banana Pro. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't think I've got Nano Banana Pro inside the ID, but maybe I'm missing something. So I think that still needs to be rolled out. Now, from here, we are using Gemini 3 Pro. We've inserted the image of the new design we want to create, and we've asked it to change that now, right? So you can see it's editing the tailwind, and it should edit the SAS tool so that it's redesigned to the new image we've asked for. Now, if we go back to Stitch, whilst we're waiting for that other design to be done, you can see we've got a totally new design here, which looks pretty cool. And if we wanted to add that in here, we could. But the only problem with that is I don't like it because really we're not asking for a pricing section or testimonials, right? We need the tool to have the same UI as before. So I'm going to say, okay, redesign this page so it looks more modern and allows people to create SEO content with AI without logging in, right? Then create an Alex or Moses style landing page selling the benefits of this tool. So now it's going to code with Stitch as well. In the meantime, we've hit the limit on Gemini Pro as always. So I'm going to switch to low, hit accept. Hopefully that keeps going now and doesn't hit the limit. So it's reached a quota for both Gemini low and high. So let's change to 4.5 Sonnet. See if that works. Look at that. We've got to wait till 9:30 a.m. to be able to continue using it. That is the biggest limitation of this. Now, I know it only came out like 2 days ago, so that makes sense. And to be fair, it has coded some pretty nice stuff. But just something to bear in mind there is like, be prepared to hit a lot of limits, right? So we've got the new design over here. I want to have a look. Yes, you can just type in your keyword at the top. And then what we can do is, well, I mean, you've got a few options here. You could share it, but you could actually just take screenshots of this. So if we download that or export it, right? So we can actually export it to AI Studio if we want, but we want to use this inside Antigravity. So we can download that as a zip, export, all right? And then we're going to go over to Antigravity over here, hit accept all, and that'll start generating the outputs for the the new design, and then we can upload that zip file in a second once the first version is done. I just want to see what it does with this new design that we've asked it to create in the meantime. Let's see what we got in the chat here. Whoa, we got a load of comments from Pablo. We'll come on to that in a sec. All right, all the Google tools are great, but what is the real path to actually creating something market ready? There's always a step missing. How do you connect Stitch, an AI SEO app, pay system, etc.? Right, so if you just want to collect payments, then you just set up Stripe. That's it. Simple as that. It does have limits, yet 100%. If you want to create like something market ready as well, like you just speak to your users, speak to your audience and figure out what they want, right? Like, so for example, when we created the AI Profit Boardroom, every time someone left, we would ask them, why did you leave? And then we'd implement those improvements into the next version of the AI Profit Boardroom. So a lot of people saying, I feel overwhelmed. And so we created a focus manual to fix that problem, and no one ever complained about overwhelm again. So my main point here is like, you always want to be speaking to your audience. That is usually the missing step. And one thing that most people who work online don't like to do, because it involves a lot of work and speaking to customers, and that's kind of what they signed up for. They kind of signed up to working online because they wanted to avoid speaking to customers. But yeah, that's usually the most important step. It's like, if most problems in your business can be fixed just by speaking to your customers. All of these YouTube guys are showing simple apps and mock-ups which are far from proper good SaaS tools. I mean, we're just coding this out today, right? It's just an example. But if you want to code like something really amazing, then just be prepared to sit down for 5 days and really just focus on it and create something crazy. Olaf says yes, because they show off the new flashy features behind the scenes, planning for a solid app company. It still works 100%. Takes a lot of work. I just wanted to answer. I think you've got your answer. Will be good to know if we can actually even build a real product. 100% you can, right? If you look at, who was it? Peter Levels created like multiple SaaS tools that he vibe coded, and then he put them on the market, and they're all doing pretty well now. So you can create SaaS tools with these products, vibe code them out based on what your audience wants, and then the other thing that most people miss is the marketing, right? It's like, it doesn't matter how good your vibe coded tool is, you want to make sure that you're pushing it out as much as you can, right? You can have the best like SaaS tool in the world, but if you don't have any distribution, if you don't have any marketing, no one is ever going to see it or use it. No one's ever going to sign up to it. And so like, if people don't sign up to it, how's that ever going to work for you in your business, right? So that's one of the most important parts as well, as the marketing. Even once you built it, you need to market it like crazy. So how to make a website to run it on a PHP server or Google tools when you build it on your computer. Why can't they produce the downloadable stuff? Yeah, you can ask to export it, right? Like you code it locally, and then you can host that on a server. So for example, like I've created a lot of websites. Let me pull up one. So for example, if you have a look at the AI Profit Boardroom's website, let me pull this up. This website right here, we vibe coded it with Manus, exported it from Manus, and then uploaded it to Netlify. And with Netlify, you can host the files, right? It's the same with Google's IDE. It's like you can grab the local files here, and then from there you can export them and host them on Netlify. So you don't have to host them locally. You just upload them to whatever you prefer to host them on. Let me pull this up. All right, so let's say, if you look at someone like Peter Levels, who created and vibe coded some pretty cool apps and has done pretty well with that. How did he do it, right? If you figure out what people want, that's step one, right? Speak to your customers. Then from there, step number 2 is you vibe code out and create a beta version. If you want to accept payments, use Stripe. And then step number 3 is marketing plus distribution. So you want to market it like crazy. Ideally, you build an audience, or you leverage your influencers audience. Bear in mind, you can have the best tool in the world, but no marketing equals no customers. And then step number 4 is just iteration, right? So get feedback, improve. Speak to people who are leaving, figure out why they churn, implement those changes to your next version. And then basically that's it, right? So you figure out what people want by speaking to your customers. You vibe code it out by creating a beta version, and you can use Stripe for accepting payments. Then from there, marketing and distribution. So you want to market like crazy. Ideally, you build an audience, or you leverage other influencers, audiences. And you can have the best tool in the world, but no marketing equals no customers. So just be careful of that. And then iteration, right? So get feedback and improve. Speak to people who are leaving, figure out why they churn, and implement those changes to your next version. And that's basically the iterative process right here. Right? And then this is kind of like a full process here, because once you've run through that and you got version 2, guess what? you're going to figure out what your customers want again, vibe code it out again, do more marketing distribution, right? So it's like a iterative cycle. But that's the process for building SaaS tools. That's what I commonly see. So you can code it out locally, like I was saying, and then just upload it to Netlify to improve it. Would you create a tutorial of how to develop a full SaaS? Yeah, so if you go to, I actually built a job board on one of my tutorials here. So if you go to the AI Profit Boardroom, and then you're going to type in data button here. If you want to see me build out a full SaaS, you can see it inside this video. We've got a full step-by-step operating procedure as well for building that, and that's inside the AI Profit Boardroom. Right, link in the comments description. So if you go to Classroom, then you're going to scroll down, and then you go to the SOPs, and you'll see my full tutorial on how we did it. And we've actually got a custom GPT as well inside there for prompting these tools. So if you want to learn how to prompt them, if you want to see a video tutorial, if you want to see all my best trainings on AI, like you can see the amount of training on the left-hand side is wild. If you also want to get like new trainings, then you can see we update the SOPs every single day. So all the stuff on like Nano Banana, Google Stitch, Google Gemini 3.0, etc. This is all inside the AI Profit Boardroom, along with the training on Antigravity. There we go. All right. So yeah, I think it's the only community where we upload new trainings every single day. So you can join the AI Profit Boardroom community and then get help there. John says, reverse engineer by looking at searches and a subject, then look at the need rather than your idea by search led. Okay. What are the comparable tools to Antigravity, and why would you say Antigravity is better? So Antigravity is completely free right now, and also it's using Gemini 3.0, so that's why it's really good. Also, it's got an agentic browser built with it too. That's 3 big benefits right there. What I would say the downfalls are is that like there's token limits, right? So you can see today, for example, we've hit the limits 3 different times, which is not great. So if you want to create tools without the token limits, then you can also build with Visual Studio Code. The problem that you're going to find is like if you're running this on a laptop or a Mac that is quite old, then you're going to be restricted by the amount of power and speed you have on your laptop. And so if you're restricted, then you're probably better off using something like what could you use instead? Well, you could use Visual Studio. You could use online tools like Bolt, Lovable, Firebase Studio if you're building apps. AI Studio as well is pretty good for building stuff out. And these are all cloud-based, which means you're not limited by the power of your laptop. John says, analytics show what users are doing on your site, what is working against people interest. Yeah, you use Google Analytics for that. User Random says, I think this problem occurs for a lot of people. They start to test vibe coding. They can't publish it on their own server, so a video tutorial by Julian worth to make. I've shown like a bunch of video tutorials today. Hi, and then Sporter says, Julian, why are you saying full SaaS with data button and not the Goat Windsurf? I appear to have a good security and database straight from the Goat Windsurf. I like Windsurf too. Do you know what? I stopped using it because it kept breaking on me, Windsurf. So yeah, I completely stopped using it. It was kind of getting annoying. So that's why I stopped. And then other stuff came out like Gemini AI Studio, where you could code for free and you could build better stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to switch over there. And also there were so many different IDEs around that it was just good to go. Damavicia says, is there anything you don't cover? I mean, I've dedicated like thousands of hours to my life at this point to learning AI, so I actually don't. I don't think there's, I mean, I don't cover much NA10 content on YouTube anymore. The reason for that is like, I don't talk about NA10 much because those videos are not doing so well on YouTube and people are not that interested, so I stopped talking about NA10. We have a lot of automations on that inside there. And if you look over the course of 12 months, is there anything that we don't cover inside AI? I actually don't think so. I think we try and cover pretty much everything that we can to help as many people as we can, right? The more we help people, the better things are. So let's go back to Antigravity now. We'll check this out. So we're going to accept all. Let's just say, okay, preview this, see what we got. So it's going to preview and launch this on the agentic browser, and boom, we got the new version right here. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I would actually say that looks nicer than the original and pretty simple and easy. I don't think that, yeah, it looks pretty nice, right? It looks pretty good. So that's the newer version. So that's how you can code out with Google Stitch as well and that sort of thing. There we go. So I'm going to stop that now. So yeah, I mean, Google Antigravity, it's basically like opening, a magic door inside your computer. You type and the computer thinks for you. It's pretty simple and easy, showing you exactly how to code out whatever SaaS tool you have in mind, which is really interesting. There is so much you can do with it. It's pretty much endless.